Prince Harry turns the big 4-0, and look who turned out to congratulate him on social media.
And we learn more about the Prince and Princess of Wales's strict parenting style.
Welcome to Heirs and Spares, where we bring you the latest on two very famous royal couples on both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, bringing you the latest on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, right here in California.
And I'm Katie Nicholl, and I'll have all the latest news from the Prince and Princess of Wales here in the UK. But actually, we're not going to start with the Prince and Princess of Wales. We're going to start with James Middleton, of course, Kate's younger brother, who's been making headlines of his own this week with the launch of his new book, memoir, Meet Ella, the Dog Who Saved My Life. The book, which is set to be released on the 24th of September, offers an emotional look into James's challenges, including some of his darkest moments. And it's a book that really digs deep and really exposes, I think, the youngest and probably least heard of the Middleton siblings. And it is James's journey through his own mental health struggles. And he reveals that at one point, when he was at his darkest period in time, he considered taking his own life and jumping off the rooftop of a building, which is quite an admission, a very brave thing to announce to the world. And as he's in this state of mind, he's wondering about how it's going to affect his family and his wider family. He talks about William in the book as well. And he's got his dog Ella with him, and she looks at him in a way that makes him know that she needs him, and he doesn't jump. And it's a really powerful and moving memoir. And it is all about this little Cocker Spaniel who's died now, but who basically saved his life. So it's a wonderful journey. It's very moving. And it's James in his own words. So I'm sure it's going to be a big success. I'm sure it's going to be a book that a lot of people want to read, probably out of the curiosity factor because he's a Middleton, but also because largely down to his sister, the Princess of Wales, Kinsey, mental health and raising awareness for mental health has become such an important part, a cornerstone of William and Kate's work. And we know through the Heads Together campaign that it was very much Kate pushing to put mental health and mental health awareness on the map. And I think James's new memoir gives us some insight into why this genre, this issue, is so important to Princess Catherine, because she's had first-hand experience, and that experience is now being shared in, as I say, this very moving book.
Now, in the book, according to an excerpt in the Daily Mail, James says, "I am grateful to Catherine and William, whose work in the field of mental health has given them valuable knowledge and understanding. My parents relied on them and Pippa to try to breach the impenetrable wall of my silence." Reading that is such a stark contrast to the description we heard of Prince William and Catherine and the royal family's reaction to Meghan Markle when she talked to Oprah Winfrey about the reaction she received when she asked for some mental health help. Normally, I would be like, would this kind of book make the palace nervous? But in any way, do you think the palace understood that James's story would be beneficial to Prince William and Catherine in the sense that they were so supportive of him throughout his mental health journey?
Well, I think two things really, Kinsey. I don't think James would have done the book without obviously running it past his sister, running it past his family. Whether it got to palace officials, who knows? I mean, I think probably if it got the green light from Catherine, he would have known it wouldn't have been a problem. And as you say, he talks in the book about the many conversations he's since had with Catherine and William about James's respect and admiration for the work that they are doing in this really important arena of raising the public consciousness, because I think that's really what they've done, of mental health and mental health awareness. We see Catherine fronting Children's Mental Health Awareness Week every year. They're involved in numerous initiatives. So I don't think there would have been any concerns about it. But I think it's obviously been a cathartic process for James in terms of writing a book about his own experience. Very brave decision of his to go so public. And I think, in a way, it's almost like normalizing the conversation around mental health and depression, and he will probably be doing, I think, a lot of people many favors by being as open about it as he has been, and knowing that William and Kate are really championing this cause. I mean, they really have put the spotlight onto it.
How sweet, though, to imagine that he looked down at his dog, Ella, and thought, I need to stay here for you. And if you
Yeah.
look at his life today, he's married, has a beautiful baby. He's become this really incredible entrepreneur specifically when it comes to animals. That dog, yeah, I think that he realizes that dog brought so much joy to his life. He had no idea what was coming, and what a blessing.
No, absolutely. I mean, he says it is as if for a second reality has intruded. I haul myself back from the brink, slowly climb down the ladder and stroke Ella's silky head. She is the reason I do not take that fatal leap. She is Ella, the dog who saved my life. And it's listen, we've only read what we have done in the excerpts, but if that's anything to go by, I think it's going to be a really moving book, and probably quite emotional, and an emotional read, I would imagine, also for the Middleton family. I mean, I think, when we talk about the Middletons, we do talk about them as this incredibly close family. And I think when you consider what they've been through with James and his mental illness, I mean, he talks about a failed, thank goodness, suicide attempt. He doesn't go through with it, but as a family having to deal with that, that's something pretty enormous to go through. And then, of course, they've had Catherine's cancer that they've gone through as a family. I think, one thing we do know about the Middletons is just how close they are, how supportive, how tight-knit, and that, there is such a close bond between all of them.
I would have to double check, and I won't be rude and grab my phone, but I think he left a really sweet comment under Catherine's video after she released her video, like that he was proud of her or something. And that is so strange to see in the wild, because this family does seem so unattainable. This is royalty, and I would even include James in that category, although he communicates online much more. But to see him supporting his sister so publicly and in the social media arena was very sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is that real support. There is that real closeness between them. Yes, he does comment on those Kensington Palace stories, and I think that's sort of like just a public show of support for everyone else to see. Probably not the children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, because a news story in the Daily Express, it's not that new, I have to be honest, but it picks up something that, well, I've certainly known this for a long time. I don't know whether everyone else out there has. It's just how strict William and Kate are with their children when it comes to social media, when it comes to using tablets and iPhones. They really have tried as much as possible to limit iPhone usage. They don't give them iPads. They encourage them to be out and about in nature as much as possible. And of course, we saw that, didn't we, in that wonderful video that Catherine released to announce the happy news that she's finished her preventative chemotherapy. I mean, that video was pretty much entirely shot out in nature, and when it wasn't, they're playing a game of cards around the family with, of course, Carol and Michael Middleton. So we've had a bit of insight into how William and Catherine are raising these three young children, and we've obviously been given a wonderful snapshot into that through the most recent video. But yes, reports surfacing that they really are doing everything they can to sort of keep the children away from social media. Now, I know that they have use of iPads at school, but I believe they don't use iPads and they don't have iPhones yet at home. I mean, I don't know how long the Waleses are going to be able to continue that. I mean, I think particularly when George starts secondary school, it does become harder. The friends all communicate on WhatsApp groups, and they probably are not going to be able to keep this up forever. But I think that's certainly something that Meghan and Harry would endorse William and Catherine doing, for sure. They may not agree on everything, but I think they're sort of united in this battle on social media and just trying to keep our kids smartphone free for as long as possible. But I think in many ways, I think it's a case that people will be not surprised by that, but quite surprised by how hands-on William and Catherine are, how strict they are about their routines. We've seen them out, being indulged at Taylor Swift concert and everything, but this is a rare occurrence. They're not allowed late nights on school nights. They're not allowed iPads. They're very restricted in terms of what they can do online. And I think it's just William and Catherine trying to keep that innocence of their childhood for as long as they can.
We actually have discussed this before. So you're right. This is a story that kind of hovers, but I do think that it's important that it comes up now, because I was so hurt by Liz Jones's article reacting to Catherine's video, making fun of it, saying it looked like a Bowden ad. I think she also said that real children are sitting around on their iPhones. And my instinct, as soon as I read that line, was, not William and Catherine's kids. They are not sitting around on their iPhones. So it's nice sometimes to have these stories kind of circulate again, because then you're reminded, no, that's not the reality. These children are incredibly sheltered. And it's like you said, it's to protect their innocence. It's to protect them from some of these ugly headlines, ugly hashtags, and just to keep them as pure and sweet as possible, because they might not know how much responsibility they have coming up.
No, I think absolutely. And I think sort of preserving that innocence, keeping them as young as they can, keeping them in nature, keeping them grounded and anchored. One of the other things in this report is how William and Catherine will make an effort not to be away at the same time. And we're increasingly, well, we haven't seen Catherine obviously doing any solo tours this year at all, but she will return to doing that work at some point. But, they've sort of, where possible, they try not to travel together so that there's always one of them with the children. You and I, Kinsey, have spoken about how they do the school run together. They are very hands-on. They're very involved. One of the things that I sort of enjoyed reading about, and I do wonder how much they do put it into practice, is these sofa chats that they apparently have with their children. So, if little Louie's having a temper, or Charlotte's feeling that she hasn't got something that everyone else has got, probably an iPhone or whatever it might be, William or Catherine will take them off and sit on the sofa, have some quiet time, and sort of explain to them why they're doing what they're doing, and trying to converse rather than shout, which I think in theory sounds very wonderful, and probably very good for their mental health, both parents' mental health and children's mental health. I'm not sure how practical it is. I'm sure there are many parents that sort of feel that they could be as disciplined to, rather than shout in that moment, suggest that they go and have some sofa time. But whether they do that all the time or not, I think what we're seeing is how they're approaching parenting, and it feels modern, and it feels fresh, and it feels that they're very, very connected with their children. And just going back to that video, which, by the way, I loved and thought was a beautiful way of Catherine communicating the best outcome that we could have possibly hoped for her and her health moving forwards. I think it was just a joyful look at them as a family. And, we don't get invited in very often. We got invited in. It was a privilege. Let's not knock it. But Kinsey, tell us about what's going on your side of the pond.
Absolutely. But really quickly, I meant to ask you this because I was thinking about this earlier today. Your opinion. I feel like you're right. That video is a privilege, because I don't think we're going to get things like that in the future. I think that was a one-off. We've been harassing this family, asking where she is not us, but the internet, for 8 months. And they gave us this unreal access. And I don't think that that's going to happen very often. So all of the criticism I'm saying about, we don't want Catherine to become Meghan Markle, I'm like, that's not an option. That's the biggest extreme I could have ever imagined.
No, I think we shouldn't come to take it for granted. I don't think we should expect anything like this on a regular basis. I think this was a very special occasion, marked with a very special video. But of course, there was another special occasion this weekend. Prince Harry's 40th. That was a nice segue, wasn't it?
Nice. I love it. All right. His birthday, obviously the biggest royal story over the weekend. And part of his birthday celebrations, which we weren't necessarily expecting, was he spent it supporting a meaningful cause. No heads up when it came to Saturday. No. Harry and Meghan attending a tennis tournament in Los Angeles that raised money for the Alliance of Children's Rights. This is a cause that Meghan Markle has been connected to through a close friend of hers. We've heard a lot from Prince Harry over the last few days. He even told the BBC he was so anxious about turning 30. He's so excited about turning 40, and the difference in the way that he felt going into this birthday. And we even saw the royal family wishing Prince Harry a happy 40th birthday on social media. I think my biggest shock was that they didn't turn the comments off immediately when they posted it. That came a few hours later, that they shut down down the comments on social media. But we do know that it is protocol for the royal family to mark non-working royals' birthdays when there are big milestones. So we don't expect to see Prince Andrew wished a happy birthday every year, but when there's a 0 at the end, we might get a Prince Andrew shout out. Same with Prince Harry and same with Meghan. There was also this scandal about Meghan being cut out of the picture. Buckingham Palace has since said, we did not cut Meghan out of the picture. This independent picture of Prince Harry was uploaded to Getty along with the picture of Meghan sitting next to him. We opted to choose the image. They probably didn't even know that there was a picture of Meghan sitting next to him. They probably went for the first flattering photo. So I felt a little bit bad that we went in on them for cutting Meghan out of the photo. I see that the New York Post headline is still up. Come on, guys, we got to take it down. And we even heard from Prince William and the Princess of Wales. They've reshared the King's post with their own personal message. Is your opinion that this is that the Prince and Princess of Wales didn't have to do it, but they did it? So are we shocked? Or is your opinion that this was going to happen either way? We should have been more shocked if they would have pulled the plug on it.
Well, look, I completely agree with you, Kinsey. You know, the fact that they've posted a message isn't a shock because it is a milestone birthday. I think it would have looked petty and trite for the king not to have wished his son a happy birthday. They're not together in the same country. We haven't had any guidance out of the palace as to whether there was a phone call. I'm sure there probably was. I can't believe that the king would have not picked up the phone and spoken to his son on his 40th birthday. So I think that message was a sort of public way of showing the king's sort of support for his son, his delight that he's celebrating his 40th, albeit over in Montecito. Still very scant details about this party that was hosted and this boys only trip that Harry's apparently been on. I'm sure details of that will trickle out over the couple of days. But I do think it would have looked remiss if the king hadn't done anything. And in fact, when I was writing my piece for Vanity Fair over the weekend, I did speak to a source close to the king just to try and get a heads up as to whether or not we could expect some sort of message or public show of support. And they said, I think it would be very unusual if we didn't. And of course, that was the case. I think, would William and Catherine have issued anything on social media entirely independently? I suspect probably not. But I think the king was leading by example, and therefore it was only right that the Prince and Princess of Wales followed in wishing Harry a happy 40th. Whether or not there was a conversation there, well, that is a more interesting question, and well, certainly a harder one to answer. I mean, I don't know whether you're aware of whether or not William picked up the phone to his brother or whether they spoke. I think that would be difficult given that they're not on talking terms, but you never know, perhaps for the sake of marking a 40th, perhaps the ice could have just been broken for that day. A lot of people, as you would expect, Kinsey, reading into these social media messages, wondering if this is paving the way for a rapprochement between the king and his son, between Harry and his brother. I think regarding the latter, far less likely. I don't think that's on the table. But I do think where possible, the king is doing everything to sort of extend an olive branch to his youngest son. So we'll have to wait and see.
Now, one of the most interesting stories that I've seen circulating over the last few days was the idea that Harry and Meghan feel like somebody's plotting against them. Somebody's working behind the scenes against them. I probably worded that a little too intensely, but they are said to be deeply concerned about the timing of an article from the Hollywood Reporter that suggests that Meghan is a dictator in heels. They felt they were blindsided by this article, and there is concern that perhaps somebody is in the fold that is working against them. This is a shock when you get something like the Hollywood Reporter and Industry Bible criticizing Harry and Meghan or criticizing their work ethic, because Harry and Meghan's narrative over the last few years has been the British tabloids are lying. The British tabloids are attacking us. They're going after us. So to see an American industry, publication criticize them, be critical of them, and to have such nasty details, the dictator in heels. I mean, that is a headline. They know when that reporter got that soundbite, they knew that they had gold. Do you think that Prince Harry and Meghan and again, the Duchess difficult. We've heard that nickname before. That did originate, I believe it originated in the UK, and then Meghan's sister Samantha kind of adopted it.
Yeah.
Do we think that Harry and Meghan are concerned at all about the Hollywood Reporter article? Do they have?
Well, it's hard to know, isn't it, Kinsey? I mean, has a legal letter been issued? I mean, I read that and did think it was pretty sparse on detail. I mean, when you consider the Duchess difficult reports, which you're right, they did originate out of the UK, you know, there was stuff to really back it up. Has this just come off the back of Josh Kettler, who was the Santa Barbara-based consultant who'd been serving as Chief of Staff to the Duke and Duchess up until I think it was August when they resigned? Has it come out of that? Or is there someone who is actively spinning against them, who has an axe to grind? It's not the first time they've been criticised by a high-profile organisation over in America. There was someone at Spotify, I can't remember who it was, but someone quite senior.
Bill Simmons, yeah.
Yeah, who described them as grifters, right?
Yeah. Oh,
so,
yeah.
That was, yeah, this was not a flattering portrayal of them from someone very senior who'd been working with them at Spotify. They're not going to ignore this article coming out of Hollywood Reporter, whether or not they take legal action. Well, you know, they are highly litigious as a couple, but particularly for Meghan, I mean, it's not the sort of press that she wants at any time, but particularly not just after her husband's 40th, not when she's got a new Netflix show about to come out. We talk about timing, you know, that trailer was only recently released. So the timing's not great for her. You know, Meghan wants to be the toast of Hollywood, right? She doesn't want to be seen as the dictator in heels or Duchess difficult. I think she hoped she'd left all of those labels behind her. So yeah, this is going to be something that I think it will be both upsetting. She will take great offense to it. And so you do wonder what sort of a charm offensive she's going to go on to, particularly with a new Netflix TV series to promote. So watch this space.
About gardening and friendship. You got to be nice. You got to be nice to your plants. Ask King Charles. He talks to his.
Well, he was ahead of the curve with that as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. If you agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Katie, you're one of my favorite friends. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I love your insight.
Only kindness between you and me, Kinsey. And until next week.
Thank you.